Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the Political Brown Kid here. And I'm pretty sure everyone has heard, or I shouldn't say everyone, but most people, specifically if you're black and you follow African American news, you've heard about Taraji Henson's, you know, basically having a moment, you know, where I guess she was discussing the pay disparity within Hollywood. And, she was basically just kind of venting her frustrations, even you know, taking the supposition that maybe giving up or retiring from acting. Um, I listened to it. I listened to it from the Roland, and I listened to it on Roland Martin. Roland Martin covered it, so definitely go check out Roland Martin's YouTube channel and hear his opinions on it. He had a discussion about it with a few people on his panel. But here's my take on this. This thing is a lot deep, once again, I'm going to recommend. I know people aren't going to do it because most of the people who come to my channel only want to see me talk about dating. They don't want to get any other content. But I have to say this: I would I would really almost beg individuals to go back and look at my earlier videos. Matter of fact, one of the very first videos I did, I think it was called Know Your Numbers. And that video I think it's very enlightening for people, because black people in America, or not even just in America, but black people in the diaspora, because this is bigger than just America. Black people in the diaspora wonder why they struggle and they still don't understand it. You're not struggling because of racism. You're not struggling because of sexism. You're not struggling because of any of those issues. Your biggest issue is that you don't have numbers. And that's why I titled that video, Know Your Numbers. What black people fail to understand is this, and I'm going to tie this into the whole Taraji Henson thing, because Taraji's not, I think Taraji and them they're looking at this from a different lens. And I'm going to break it down. But when you look at the world, just take the world, but let's start in America. When you look at America, the number of Africans Americans or blacks in America is there's 300 million people in America, approximately. There's 300 million people in America. We already know that 70% of those people are white, Caucasian. That's what they identify as. And, you're going to have some of those people that are Latino is not a race. So I don't know why Latinos can't get this through their thick skulls. But you are not a race. You are a nationality. You're a culture. So you're going to have some white Latinos. You're going to have black Latinos. And a lot of those Latinos, they identify as Latinos because America allows you to do anything and everything. They allow men to be women and women to be men and people to identify as non-binary. They allow it all now. But you're going to have people checking particular boxes. So when you look at blacks are probably about, I think, 14% of the American population. So you're about 20 million, if that. Maybe a little over. And matter of fact, as Dr. Umar Johnson brought this to my attention, so thanks to Umar Johnson, the number of blacks in the last census that occurred, the numbers dropped. And the reason why is because you have a whole bunch of blacks who are mixed race, and they want to identify as mixed race because America has now pushed that whole mixed race on people. And this is why I tell you, the black race is done, because everybody, you have to look at it from this perspective. What racism has done throughout the world. When you look at the world, everything you see, and that's why I keep telling y'all, if you don't control the media, the government, and the military, you control nothing. So when you look at the media, all you're going to see is the Pope. Everything that's beautiful and glamorous is white. The Pope, the Vatican. They have all of these rituals, all of these facades. They done stole everything from Egypt, and Egypt was a black kingdom, but they forced that upon y'all, that all of these people in Africa, just because it was Northern Africa, they just want to make it seem like there was a bunch of white people in Egypt, and it was not. And I've already explained that to you all. Ask an alien to come to the United States. Ask an alien to plop down in America and then go report back to whatever planet he's from and let him describe what the people were like. And he's more than less likely going to say they were predominantly white. And knowing daggone well that indigenous Americans were here first. The same thing happened with Egypt. Egypt was the America of its time. People came there from Rome. People came there from Greece. And people came there from all over to study, and it became multiracial just like it is. But you can see the indigenous Egyptians that are there. They're the lower class people. Go look at the lower class Egyptians, and you're going to see they look just like a brother, look just like some Ethiopians, similar to some Ethiopians. They don't look like Ethiopians, look a little different, but they're going to have that kind of similar hair texture, similar hair color. But I'm kind of getting off the point, but let me get back to it. But that plays a part in it, because when you have people that don't want to identify as being black, they don't want to be associated with being black, your numbers are already diluted. And so when you have 20 million black people in a country that has 300 million people, and then you look at those 20 million blacks and say, well, what is the average median household income of those black people? And it is way below the white people, right? Because white people have all the power. And you flip this around. You go over to South Africa. There's probably 2% white people living there, approximately. They're like the white people. There's only like 2-3% white people living in South Africa. Everybody else black as hell. But when you look at the income earned, those 2% of white people control all of the power in South Africa. They control the businesses, they control the money, the finances, and all the black people just poor or middle class. No white people living good. I don't make this up. And I'm bringing this to say you have to know your numbers. Know how much money, and I'm particularly talking money in this particular sense, and I'm talking cultural or racial identification. Because you have a whole bunch of Africans that'll tell you, I'm not black. They'll identify as, Congolese, Nigerian, Ethiopian, Eritrean. They don't identify as one group. And then you have the light skin or blacks in this country, or the blacks that are of mixed race, because you don't necessarily have to be light skinned, but you have the blacks of mixed race in America saying, I'm not black. I'm half Indian. I got Indian in my family. I got some Caucasian. I'm all kind of stuff. They don't want to be black, Raven, Simone. So those people don't want to support your cause. Those people don't have a tie to your cause. They don't care about your cause because they want to be accepted by everybody. So when you're not even unified as a people and you don't make any money, this is what you're going to have. And I use this as an example. You look at all of the rap groups. You look at Run DMC and you look at the Beastie Boys. I'm going to take those two because they make very similar music. Run DMC does kind of like a rock rap, blend. And the Beastie Boys are the rock rap blend. It makes sense. They both dealt with Rick Rubin and Russell Simmons. They both kind of came from the same production camp. But who were the better selling act? The Beastie Boys. Run DMC hangs one of them there. Don't get it twisted. But the Beastie Boys. You look at Vanilla Ice. A white guy can come in and just drop Ice Ice Baby and just hottest selling thing ever. Eminem can come in and sell tens of millions of records. You look at Post Malone and all of them. They're making money. You look at New Edition versus the Backstreet Boys and versus New Kids on the Block. New Edition, their sales can't touch anywhere near what New Kids on the Block and them were doing. And you can pretty much say they have the same, the first album from New Kids on the Block, because they used the same producer, Maurice Starr, right? So you can pretty much say, here's a side-by-side comparison. We're comparing apples to apples. It's just one apple's a Granny Smith apple, one apple's a Gala apple, right? But here it is, and even Michael Bivins talked about this. New Kids on the Block had New Kids on the Block dolls. They sold tens of millions of records, and New Edition barely scraping by. I don't make this up. I'm bringing all that up to say this is that people have their own prejudices. You have natural prejudices. A hummingbird is going to mate with another hummingbird just because they are of the same kind. A tiger is going to mate with a tiger. A lion's going to mate with a lion. That's what they do. This is called natural prejudices. So when you have a young white female, she's looking at New Edition boy band. She probably likes the music. It's nothing. It's not. There's no hatred in this. It's okay to have prejudices, and that's what these people in America fail to understand. And that's why they keep pushing these interracial love stories on you all, because they're the ones with the racist problem. When you totally can say that you're not racist is when you can say, yes, I am prejudiced for X, Y, and Z. I love these people, but I don't hate y'all. I'm just, but I know that these are the people that I identify with. And when you can have those open and honest conversations and you're not harming the other person, that's fine. So a young white girl, she's going to she may like a New Edition song or two, but she loves New Kids on the Block because those boys, they're cute. She can identify with those boys and the way they sound and the cultural spin that they put on it. Just like the black girls are going to gravitate towards New Edition because it's what they know and that's what appeals to their eye. So you can say the same thing. And this is because, once again, you have 300 million white people you have about 200 million white people, 200 million plus white people in America. Their household incomes are very good. They don't live at the poverty line and struggle like black families do. So they can go out and buy paraphernalia for particular artists and spend money on tickets. And so and I'm getting to the point, and then when you go outside of America, so before I bring Taraji into this, when you go outside of America, what do you see? You see the European continent, wealthy, white. You can even go to Russia and say Russia, there's wealth there. You can go to China and say that people don't realize how wealthy the Chinese are. Chinese will buy a whole house here in California and put their high school kid in a house by themselves. They'll buy the house in cash. I don't make this up. Go look in the early 2000s who was buying all of these properties in America. These were foreigners coming in here buying houses. They have money. These other nations and nationalities have money. But then when you go to Africa and you go to the African continent, nothing but poverty. I shouldn't say nothing but poverty. That's an absolute. But the majority of people are poverty. They're in debt to America, they're in debt to Russia, they're in debt to China. They let everybody rape and steal the resources, and all they are low-level workers. They don't have the money. So getting back and tying all of this into Taraji is when you have Taraji Henson starring in A Color Purple, who do you think is going to be attracted to go see The Color Purple? The one thing, you delusional black people, if you're thinking that everybody in the world wants to see a story with a bunch of black people running around on a screen, I don't care who made the movie, Steven Spielberg or whomever, but people are just kind of like, well, no, it's not my cup of tea. Just like I look at certain movies and I'm like, I would never look at that because it's not my thing. And then, and not to say that white people can't get into it, but they probably make the same mistakes I made. For example, I've never heard of a show called Kim's Convenience. It's a Vietnamese comedy show. It's now on Netflix. I think that show is hilarious, but that show has been around for eons. I'm just now seeing it because it wasn't on my radar. I probably saw it and was like, Kim's Convenience, I'm not going to watch it. Just like, and I'll be honest with you, just like, who's the comedian? It's a Hispanic comedian, and I think he has a show with his daughter now. I kind of didn't get into his show because it was like, I'm not going to gravitate towards that. But if you put Fresh Prince of Bel-Air on, if I see somebody that I can identify with, I'm going to be like, oh, let me check this show out. I'm going to give it a chance. So not to say that white people can't like The Color Purple if they give it a chance, but sometimes it's on their back burner. Sometimes they're like, I'll wait for it to hit Netflix, or I'll wait for it to come out on so-and-so and I'll stream it. Or if I do that, they're not checking for it like that. It's not resonating with them like that. Okay? And that's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just them. So, but on the flip side, when you look at it, white people can make a show and it's going to automatically be popular. Why? Because there's 200 million white people here in the United States that have money that's going to go buy it. So when they put out a show, you can best believe they're going to check it out because they have an interest because they see people on that screen that look like them. And then that show can also go across the seas to Europe because now the Europeans, once again, predominantly white, the Europeans have the money over in Europe and England, over on the European continent, or even in Canada, same thing. In the Western world, their stuff, and even their, whether it's their music, their art, whatever it is that they're doing, even their YouTube channels, the IG models, when people get mad at this stuff, it's because, once again, it's our natural prejudices. Think about this too. I mean, Kim Kardashian has no better body than what Thelma from Good Times had. From what the average, if you look at it, she is not even better than the average black girl. And that's just being honest with you. She's not better than the average black girl. We've been staring at thick behinds for forever. Thelma from Good Times, every Bernadette Stannis. Everybody loves Bernadette. If you looked at and just walking this back up to today, Janet Jackson, when you come on there, Janet Jackson in Control, and them little, and when she was doing the Pleasure Principle video, them little tight black jeans, you looked at Trina, the baddest chick. The average black chick is built with a derriere. No one pays it any attention because it's a black woman. And as soon as you throw a white woman, in a black girl's body, the world goes crazy. They do. They did that. They did it with Ice-T's wife, Coco, and she's probably enhanced. They did it with Anna Nicole Smith, and now they're doing it with Kim Kardashian. Once again, white people, they have the economic power. There are no more white people on planet Earth than there are black people. You look at all of the black people on planet Earth. Look at all of the Nubians on planet Earth. There's probably more Nubians on planet Earth than there are Europeans, Caucasians. But the biggest difference is most of the black people on planet Earth are poor. You find, like I said, you're going to find the rich ones here in America. And not to say that there aren't some rich people in Nigeria, because there's a lot of Nigerians that have money. There's a lot of Africans that have money. But for the most part, the country's in poverty. So getting back to Tarajis' thing is that, unfortunately, and I'm not siding with the music companies here, but in a way I have to provide perspective, you're going to have, if no one's, you look at these companies, that's why they're, number one, there's a malicious prejudice that goes on, because Eddie Murphy even said when they did Coming to America, the executives made them put a white person in the movie. Like, why? Like, if you look at, and that's how the guy that was making fries, I forget his name, and he was like, that's when the big bucks come rolling in. I forget his name. It's so on the top of my head, but I'm not going to label on it because the seconds are ticking. But when you look at that, his role wasn't needed. He didn't really provide, but he was on the screen maybe 2 minutes, maybe a minute of screen time. But they forced Eddie to put him into the movie so that it could appeal to white people. So this is what I mean by the biases. The studios aren't going to put money into black shows because they feel as though white people aren't going to come out. They automatically just dismiss it and say it's not going to sell. That's why the only time you're going to see, that's why you see a lot of black women gravitating and just being a bed wench for white men. Like you see Halle Berry doing it, you see Tandy Newton doing it, and you see Carmine Jogo doing it. And there's a few others. They're sucking on the white man's teeth. And I'm putting that bluntly, because if they can get the star in those roles, because people are always keeping up with the Joneses. They're not satisfied just being, in black Hollywood. I want to be dominant in all Hollywood. And the only way they're going to do that is to get into these movies that the executives are going to put big money behind. And what's that going to be? Those are going to be the Marvel comic movies. Those are going to be the movies that, the Star Wars movies and all of those sci-fi stuff that you see Carmine Jogo, that you see Tandy Newton, and that you see Halle Berry starring in. And they love putting these light-skinned black women paired up with a white man because that's the white man's lust. And these black women, they're not looking at it from a perspective of, I want to help my people out and I want to be socially conscious for my people. And the optics of this doesn't look too good. They're not looking at it from that perspective. They're just looking at it from, what am I getting? I'm becoming a star. I'm reaching to my maximum potential. And so when you look at people like Taraji and them, you're not going to make the money that you want to make because, once again, if you had black people, even if the 20 million blacks here, couldn't afford it, let's just say hypothetically that the continent of Africa was just rich as a bitch. Let's just say it was rich as a bitch. And all of those countries over there flourished and black people were just prospering over in Africa. They could make whatever movie they wanted to make here. Taraji, Tyrese, all of them, all of our black actors could make a movie, and it may not be a hit here. It may be a hit with like the black culture here, but it may not be a hit nationally here. But it would do very well over there because now the blacks have money, and now they can go out and buy and spend on these frivolous items like movies and things of that nature. You following what I'm saying? So the money and trust me, Hollywood would go where the money is. So our black actors would literally say, "Okay, I'm going over to Africa because our people over there got money and they're spending money on my stuff." Or if you were a singer, you'd be like, "I'm gonna do my residence over there." And so I understand Taraji's pain and suffering. I also have to say it has to do with our numbers. And this is why we need to be advocating for Africa. When you see all these white people every election year, they advocate for Israel, advocate the hell out of for Israel. When do you see black people advocating for Africa? The only time we advocate for Africa is when we see the white man likes it. Because I'm telling you right now, white people are those white businesses, they're starting to take Twitter and all of these tech companies over there because they're trying to grow their profit margins. And Africa's the last frontier. All of these tech companies, they're already in Europe. They're already in, they probably in as much as China as they want to be. You can't get in over there any much more, because of, just the relationship between China and America. But the last frontier is Africa. And so that's why you're going to start seeing a big push. And then by the time you other regular Main Street blacks figure it out, it's going to be too late. And then you're going to be complaining, the white man over in Africa, he done took up. Well, you didn't go over there and do anything with it. Neither did I. And I'm in the same camp. So I'm not throwing stones at my black people. Well, I'm throwing stones at y'all, but I'm included in that group. We need to have a vested interest to say, let's get the black dollars up. And once you get the black dollar, and Claude Anderson speaks on this so eloquently. So I don't know why y'all not listening to Claude Anderson. But if you get the black dollars up, and that's just not the black African Americans or the blacks in America, but that's the blacks throughout the diaspora, the blacks that are in Europe, the blacks that are in Asia, the blacks that are in Africa, and I'm speaking of continents. When you get the blacks in all of these places throughout the diaspora, when you help them become rich, trust me, they will support and like the same things that you like because trust me, you all have a connection and you all laugh and like each other's stuff. So that's all I wanted to say about this because that's really the real issue here. And also too, if you look at the video, I'm gonna say this one last point. I know I said I was wrapping up, but I'm gonna say this one last point. In Roland Martin's talking points, he pointed out that, I guess, and I do remember when this happened. He pointed out when I think Monique only made $50,000 to play in Precious. And he said that that's when, and I do remember this happening, when she was asked to go out and do promos for it, she said it wasn't in her contract. And I remember this happening. And guess who the people who were responsible for paying her, and at least according to Roland Martin, maybe I'm missing a point, but according to Roland Martin, it was Tyler Perry and Oprah Winfrey. So once again, too, this goes to show you like our black people also at the same, and I understand it, I get it. because sometimes when your funds are limited, so once again, there's going to be big pay disparities. But these our black companies too, we're the ones that kind of don't totally support our own people. She only got paid 50,000 for that, and you'd have thought that hey, they would have looked out on her for the back end if the movie did very well financially, or maybe they should have just said, hey, look. We understand that we didn't pay you to do promo, so we're not going to blacklist you. We let's just go forward and figure this thing out, and we'll work together and do something again. Because you have to also understand too, Ice Cube made Friday, and when you hear all the actors talk from there, they made like $2,500 a piece. Once again, this is no fault or shame at Ice Cube, and I'm not throwing shade at Tyler Perry and Oprah Winfrey per se, because sometimes you have to do what your budget will allow. Once again, we don't get the budgets that these big studios get that are run by white people. We get the budgets that we get. And it's up to us or our people to kind of, we can do what we do. So Ice Cube probably paid them what he could. But then this is when you become a successful franchise like Ice Cube did, and I'm not pointing a finger at Ice Cube, but if you see Will Ferrell in them and Danny McBride in them, they run with the same circle. And they pull Craig Robinson into that circle. But you see all of them, they run in the same circle and they keep the same actors going. You look at Quentin Tarantino, he keeps them same actors going. We as black people need to do the same thing. They need to say, hey, look, you looked out for us on Precious. You only made 50,000. The next movie, if we get a better budget, we're going to lace you up. We're going to look out for you, Monique. Or like Ice Cube did, hey, I'm going to bring my same people back. I know Chris Tucker didn't want to come back, or for whatever reasons, he probably moved on to different things and he was getting more money. I don't know. But we also have to look out for our own people. We have to let our people know, communicate to say, hey, look, this is what my budget is. Unfortunately, I don't have the big bucks. If you do this for me in the future, I got some more work for you. And that's the way we have to handle that. And also, too, for these actors, you can't keep looking over at the fence about what everybody else is making. At some point, we just have to say, hey, look, I make what I make because this is, sometimes some people just have certain ceilings. And I'm not trying to say to settle for that, but this is why I say the culture is bigger than let's help the rest of our people get their dollars up. Because if we advocate for Africa, then I guarantee you Tarajis and them can make a lot more money. This is just my thought. If you have any thoughts, definitely drop them in the comment section. Also hit the like and subscribe button. Once again, this is the Political Brown Kid. Take care.